At the exact moment Elias Vale stopped breathing, the three most powerful women in the country were standing outside his hospital room, arguing about whether his death was worth the inconvenience. His eldest sister, Vivian, glanced at the closed door and sighed. Is he still alive? The second sister, Celeste, didn't even look up from her phone. Barely. And the youngest, Arya, laughed softly. Then why are we still here? Inside that room, Elias heard every word. He was lying beneath a thin white blanket, his body so weak that even breathing felt like dragging broken glass through his lungs. For 27 years, he had been the forgotten son of the Vale family. The boy who had been taken in after a car accident killed his parents. The boy who grew up beside three brilliant sisters who became billionaires before they turned 30. And the boy they had all promised they would never abandon. But promises were easy to make when he was healthy. Now, at 29 years old, Elias had terminal heart failure. His body was shutting down. His bank account was empty. His apartment had been repossessed. And his three billionaire sisters had not visited him once in the last 6 months. Until tonight. Because tonight they had come for one reason. To make sure he died before he could reveal their secret. Elias slowly opened his eyes. A monitor beside his bed began screaming. His heart rate dropped. The room blurred. And just before darkness swallowed him completely, a strange blue light appeared above his chest. A message formed in the air. Host life force 3 minutes remaining. Elias stared at the words. Then another line appeared. Hidden ability detected. The Vale bloodline has finally awakened. For the first time in years, Elias felt something other than pain. He felt power. Then the hospital doors exploded open, and a man in a black coat walked into the hallway. Kill him, the man ordered. The inheritance must never awaken. But the second Elias died, the entire world changed, because the man they had abandoned on his deathbed was not weak. He was the only person capable of destroying the empire his sisters had built. And by the time those three billionaire women realized what they had done, they would be on their knees, begging him to come home. But by then, Elias Vale would already have a new family, a new empire, and a reason to hate every single one of them. The city of Aurelia was built on money. From the top of the glass towers downtown to the private islands scattered along the coast, every street seemed to belong to someone powerful. The richest families controlled everything: banks, hospitals, military technology, energy companies. Even the government quietly listened whenever one of the old families made a request. But above them all stood one name: Vale. The Vale family had once owned half the city. Their company, Vale Dominion, controlled energy networks across 5 continents. Their private security division possessed technology that could shut down entire military systems, and their 3 daughters were considered untouchable. Vivian Vale was the eldest. Cold, elegant, brilliant. At 34, she was the CEO of Vale Dominion. Business magazines called her the Ice Queen. She had never lost a hostile takeover. Never apologized. Never raised her voice, because she never needed to. When Vivian entered a room, people simply moved aside. The second sister was Celeste Vale, a genius in the world of technology. She had founded a company worth more than $10 billion before she turned 26. Her artificial intelligence systems were used by governments, hospitals, and private armies. Celeste rarely showed emotion. She treated people like numbers. If someone was useful, she kept them. If they became a problem, she removed them. And then there was Arya Vale, the youngest, the most beautiful, the most famous, a celebrity billionaire who owned fashion brands, entertainment companies, luxury hotels, and a social media empire. Unlike her sisters, Arya smiled constantly. She hugged people. She laughed. She appeared warm. But behind that smile was a woman who understood exactly how much power she possessed. And then there was Elias, the 4th child, the forgotten one. Unlike his sisters, Elias had never inherited anything. He had no company, no mansion, no private jet, no bodyguards. He worked as a mechanic in a small repair shop on the edge of the city. He fixed engines, changed tires, and spent his nights trying to pay for his medical treatment. To the rest of the world, Elias Vale was a nobody. Most people didn't even know he existed. And that was exactly how his sisters wanted it. But the truth was, Elias had not always been forgotten. When he was a child, the 4 siblings had been inseparable. Vivian used to carry him on her back when he got tired. Celeste taught him how to build radios from broken electronics. Arya slept beside him whenever he had nightmares. Elias remembered those days clearly. He remembered Vivian promising him that no matter what happened, she would always protect him. He remembered Celeste saying they would become the greatest family in the world. And he remembered Arya holding his hand after their parents died. "You're my little brother," she had whispered. "I'll never leave you." But children grew up. Money changed people. And the Vale sisters became powerful. Elias did not. At first, the distance happened slowly. Vivian became busy. Celeste stopped answering his calls. Arya began traveling constantly, but Elias never complained. Whenever his sisters needed something, he helped. When Vivian's car broke down, Elias fixed it. When Celeste needed an old prototype repaired, Elias stayed awake all night. When Arya got stranded during a storm, Elias drove 3 hours to pick her up. He never asked for money. He never asked for recognition. He only wanted his family. Then, 5 years ago, everything changed. Elias collapsed while working at the repair shop. The doctors discovered that his heart was failing. The condition was rare. There was a treatment, but it cost nearly $4 million. Elias didn't have $4,000. So he called Vivian. No answer. He called Celeste. She sent a message. "I'm in a meeting. Handle it yourself." He called Arya. She answered after 3 days. "Elias, I'm sorry. I thought Vivian was taking care of it." Then she hung up. That was the moment Elias understood something. He was family when they needed him. But when he needed them, he was a burden. Still, he survived. He worked harder. Borrowed money. Sold everything he owned. And somehow managed to keep breathing. For 5 years. Until his body finally gave up. The doctors told him he had 3 months left. He lasted 7. And on the final night, he lay alone in a private hospital room he could barely afford. The room was dark. Rain struck the windows. The city lights flickered below. Elias stared at the ceiling. His fingers trembled. He was too tired to be angry anymore. That was the worst part. He had spent years waiting for his sisters to come back. Waiting for Vivian to knock on the door. Waiting for Celeste to say she was sorry. Waiting for Arya to keep the promise she made when they were children. But now, he didn't want them anymore. A knock came from outside. Elias turned his head. The door opened. Vivian entered first. She wore a black suit. Her hair was perfectly arranged. Her expression was empty. Behind her came Celeste, still holding her phone. And Arya. For 1 second, Elias felt something inside his chest that had nothing to do with his illness. Hope. It was stupid. He knew it was stupid. But when you spend years being abandoned, even the sound of a familiar voice can feel like salvation. Arya stepped toward the bed. "Elias." His lips barely moved. "Arya!" She stopped. The smile she usually showed cameras was gone. "It's been a while," Elias almost laughed. "A while?" Celeste glanced at the monitor. "How long does he have?" Vivian answered. "The doctor said tonight." Elias looked at them. "You came to say goodbye?" No one answered. The silence told him everything. Vivian walked closer. "Elias, we need to talk." His eyes narrowed. "Now? It's important." "Of course it is." Celeste finally looked at him. "You still have the old documents from our parents, don't you?" Elias froze. The room suddenly felt colder. "What documents?" Vivian's expression hardened. "The inheritance records." Elias stared at her. Then he laughed. It was a weak, painful sound. "You came here for paperwork?" Arya looked away. "Elias, please. Please what?" His voice cracked. "Please die quietly?" The 3 sisters said nothing. And that silence hurt more than any insult. Elias turned toward the window. For years he had wanted them to visit. Now that they had finally come, he wished they would leave. Vivian placed a folder on the table. "You need to sign this." Elias looked at it. "What is it?" "A transfer agreement." "For what?" Vivian's voice became colder. "The rights to the Vale Foundation." Elias slowly turned back. The Vale Foundation was a charitable organization created by their parents. According to family tradition, it had been divided among the 4 children. But Elias had never touched his share. He didn't even know it still existed. "How much?" Celeste answered. "Approximately $800 million. Elias stared at them. For the first time in years, the room became completely silent. 800 million. His entire life had been destroyed by a $4 million medical bill, and now they wanted him to give away $800 million. Vivian spoke calmly. You don't have heirs. Elias looked at her. Neither do you. That isn't the point. Then what is? Celeste's eyes sharpened. The foundation is tied to Veil Dominion. If the ownership structure changes, the entire company could be affected. Elias understood. They weren't there because they cared about him. They were afraid. Afraid that when he died, his share would go somewhere they couldn't control. He looked at the folder. Then at his sisters. You know what's funny? Arya frowned. What? For 5 years I was dying. Nobody spoke. You knew I was sick. His voice trembled. You knew I couldn't pay for treatment. Vivian looked away. Elias, no. He raised his hand weakly. Don't say my name like you care now. Arya's eyes became wet. We didn't know it was this serious. Elias stared at her. You didn't ask. That sentence hit harder than any scream. Arya looked down. Celeste said nothing. Vivian's expression remained frozen, but for the first time her fingers tightened around the folder. Elias took a breath. His chest burned. Get out! Vivian stared at him. What? Leave. You're being emotional. Elias smiled bitterly. I'm dying. The monitor beside him suddenly began beeping faster. His heart rate jumped. Elias clutched his chest. The room blurred. Arya shouted for a doctor. Vivian stepped backward. Celeste stared at the monitor. And then Elias heard something. Not with his ears. Inside his mind. A voice, cold, mechanical, ancient. Host life force critical, heart failure imminent. Awakening sequence initiated. Elias opened his eyes. A translucent blue interface floated above his chest. No one else reacted. They couldn't see it. Veil bloodline confirmed. Primary ability, absorption. Secondary ability, analysis. Unlock condition, death. Elias stared. Death? Then the hospital lights went out. The door exploded inward. 3 men in black armor entered the hallway. The first raised a weapon. Target confirmed. Vivian immediately turned. Who are you? The man ignored her. His weapon pointed toward Elias. Kill the 4th heir. The second man looked at the sisters. And eliminate the witnesses. For the first time that night, Vivian looked afraid. The attack happened in less than 3 seconds. The first bullet tore through the wall. Vivian ducked. Celeste grabbed Arya and pulled her behind a bed. Elias lay helplessly on the mattress. He could hear gunfire. Glass shattered. People screamed in the hallway. His heart monitor went wild. The armed men moved with terrifying precision. These were not ordinary criminals. They were trained assassins. One of them entered Elias's room. The man's weapon raised. Elias looked at the barrel. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. The assassin pulled the trigger. And then Elias died. His heart stopped. The monitor became a flat line. The assassin lowered his weapon. Confirmed. But the moment Elias's soul slipped into darkness, the blue interface appeared again. Host has entered death state. Awakening complete. Ability, absorb. Description, the host may absorb energy, damage, skills, and attributes from anything he touches. Warning, absorption capacity unknown. Then Elias opened his eyes. The assassin froze. Elias reached out. His hand touched the man's armored chest, and something impossible happened. The assassin's weapon fell from his hand. His muscles suddenly went limp. A blue stream of energy flowed from his body into Elias. Combat experience absorbed. Physical strength absorbed. Reaction speed absorbed. Energy core detected. Absorb? Elias didn't understand the question, but his instincts answered for him. Yes. The assassin screamed. His armor collapsed inward. Elias's heart began beating again. Once. Twice. Then with enough force to shake the bed, the assassin fell to the floor, dead. Elias sat up. For the first time in 5 years, his chest did not hurt. He looked at his hands. A faint blue glow moved beneath his skin. Vivian stared at him. Celeste stared at the dead assassin. Arya was frozen. Elias slowly stood. The room tilted, but he remained upright. The interface appeared. Heart condition restored. Organ damage repaired. Current energy level 7%. Elias looked toward the hallway. More footsteps were approaching. He didn't know what had happened. He didn't know what the blue system was. But he knew one thing. Someone had tried to kill him. And for the first time in his life, Elias Vale was no longer helpless. The next assassin entered. Elias moved. He had never been trained to fight. But the moment the enemy raised his weapon, Elias's body reacted before his mind did. He twisted sideways. The bullet grazed his shoulder. Pain exploded through him. The interface flashed. Damage detected. Absorb damage? Elias grabbed the man's wrist. Yes, the wound on his shoulder vanished. The assassin's arm became covered in dark veins. Trauma absorbed. Strength absorbed. The man fell. Elias stared at his own shoulder. No blood, no wound. He looked at the attacker, then at the blue interface. The power was real. He could take anything: energy, pain, strength, skills, perhaps even life. But the ability had one terrifying rule. Every time Elias absorbed something, he could feel a piece of the other person inside him. Their memories, their fear, their anger, their instincts. And when he touched the assassin's mind, Elias saw a name. Black Crown, a secret organization operating beneath the city. Their mission was simple: destroy the fourth heir of the Vale family before he awakened. Elias's blood ran cold. Why? Why was he important? Why did these men know about an ability he had never heard of? And why had his sisters looked terrified the moment the assassins arrived? Elias turned toward Vivian. She was standing in the middle of the room. Her face had lost all color. "You knew," Elias said. Vivian didn't answer. His voice became colder. "You knew someone was coming for me." Celeste looked at Vivian. "Tell him. Celeste, tell him." Arya stepped forward. "Elias, we were trying to protect you." He laughed. The sound was empty. "By ignoring me?" Vivian finally spoke. "Our father left instructions." Elias stared at her. "What instructions?" Vivian's eyes moved to the dead assassin. "He said that if you ever awakened..." "Then what?" She swallowed. "Everyone around you would become a target." Elias stared at the three women. "You knew I had powers?" Celeste answered. "We knew you might. Why didn't you tell me?" No one answered. Elias walked toward them. For the first time, his sisters looked small, not because they were weak, because he was finally seeing them clearly. "You watched me die." Vivian's eyes tightened. "We thought the ability would never awaken. You watched me suffer. We believed keeping you away from the family would protect you. You let me believe I was worthless." That one sentence destroyed the room. Arya began crying. Elias looked at her. She wiped her face. "We were scared. Of what?" "Of losing you," Elias laughed bitterly. "You already lost me." Before anyone could respond, the hospital windows shattered. A massive black vehicle crashed through the side of the building. The floor shook. A man stepped out. He wore a long gray coat. His hair was white. His eyes were silver, and unlike the assassins, he wasn't carrying a weapon. He didn't need one. Vivian's face changed. "Lucian," the man smiled. "Hello, Vivian." Celeste moved beside her. "Director of Black Crown." Lucian looked at Elias. So the dead child finally woke up. Elias stared at him. "Who are you?" Lucian smiled. "The man who killed your parents." The world stopped. Elias heard nothing. Not the alarms. Not the rain. Not the screams outside. Only those words. "The man who killed your parents." Elias's hands began to shake. Vivian shouted, "Elias, don't listen to him." Lucian laughed. "Why not?" He looked at the sisters. "Should we tell him the truth?" Celeste's face went pale. Lucian continued, "Your parents weren't killed in an accident." Elias turned slowly. Vivian closed her eyes. "Stop!" Lucian smiled wider. "They were murdered." Elias looked at his sisters. "Is that true?" Silence. And that was enough. Elias felt something inside him break. For 27 years, he had believed his parents died in an accident. He had believed his sisters had saved him. He had believed the Vale family was his home. But now every memory was collapsing. Lucian raised one hand. A dark aura gathered around him. I killed your parents because they discovered the truth. What truth? Lucian's smile vanished. That the Veil bloodline was never human. The air became heavy. Elias's interface began flashing wildly. Unknown energy detected. Analysis failed. Threat level, extreme. Lucian attacked. A wave of black energy slammed through the room. Elias was thrown backward. He crashed into the wall. His body should have shattered. Instead, he absorbed the impact. Impact damage absorbed. Energy capacity increased. Elias stood. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Interesting. Elias clenched his fists. For the first time, rage burned through his entire body. You killed my parents, Lucian laughed. And now I'm going to kill you, Elias charged. He moved faster than he had ever moved in his life. Lucian raised his hand. A black blade formed from darkness. The two collided. Elias dodged the first strike. The blade cut through the floor. He punched Lucian in the chest. The impact sent the older man flying through a wall. Elias stared. He had expected the attack to end the battle. Instead, Lucian rose from the rubble. Blood ran from the corner of his mouth, and he was smiling. Good. The black energy around him expanded. Show me what the original heir can do. Elias froze. Original heir? Lucian's eyes turned silver. You really don't know anything. The next attack nearly killed him. Lucian moved like a shadow. Elias could barely react. Every time Elias blocked, the black energy tore through his arms. Every time he countered, Lucian regenerated. Elias was strong, but Lucian was experienced. The fight moved through the hospital. Walls collapsed. Windows exploded. Cars were crushed beneath falling concrete. Vivian, Celeste, and Arya could only watch. Then Lucian grabbed Elias by the throat. You are not a hero. Elias struggled. You are a container. Lucian slammed him into the ground. The power inside you belongs to something older than humanity. Elias's vision blurred. His body was failing. The interface flashed. Energy level, 1%. Lucian raised his hand. A dark spear formed. Elias looked at his sisters. Vivian was screaming. Celeste was trying to activate some kind of device. Arya was crying, and suddenly Elias remembered something, a childhood memory. His father kneeling in front of him. A silver ring placed in his hand. His father's voice. If the day comes when the world turns against you... The memory cut off. Elias looked at the ring. He was still wearing it. The interface reacted. Key detected. Royal Core access available. Unlock. Elias stared. Then he smiled. Yes, the ring exploded. A massive wave of energy erupted from his body. Lucian was thrown across the hospital. The sky above the building turned blue. Every electronic device in the city shut down. And Elias began to rise into the air. The power inside him was no longer something he absorbed. It was something he controlled. A massive sphere of energy formed behind him. The interface appeared. Royal Core unlocked. Ability evolution. Absorb. Devour. New function. Convert. Elias looked down at Lucian. You wanted to see what I could do? The energy behind him condensed. Then watch! Elias raised his hand. The entire hospital shook. Lucian's smile disappeared. The attack struck. The explosion was visible from every part of Aurelia. And when the smoke cleared, Lucian was gone. But Elias was on his knees. His body was burning from the inside. The interface displayed one final message. Warning, the core has broadcast the host's location. All enemies have been notified. Elias looked toward the city. Far away in hidden buildings, secret organizations opened their eyes. The awakened heir had been found. And they were coming. The next morning, the Veil sisters brought Elias to the family estate. It was a mansion built on a private mountain overlooking the city. Elias had visited it only twice in his entire life. The first time was when he was a child. The second was when his parents died. After that, Vivian had told him the estate was dangerous. Now he understood why. The moment Elias entered the mansion, the walls recognized him. Ancient symbols appeared beneath the marble floor. Doors opened by themselves. Security systems shut down, and a massive chamber beneath the estate revealed itself. At the center of the chamber stood a circular platform. Around it were 4 statues. 3 were standing. One was kneeling. Elias stared at the kneeling statue. It looked exactly like him. Vivian walked behind him. Our father built this place. Elias turned. Why didn't you ever bring me here? Because we were afraid. You keep saying that. Vivian's voice softened. We were children too. Elias stared at her. You were 25 when I got sick. Vivian flinched. He immediately regretted saying it, but not enough to apologize. Celeste approached the platform. The ability you awakened is called the Devouring Core. Elias crossed his arms. Explain, Celeste took a breath. The Vale family is descended from an ancient civilization. Elias stared. That's your explanation? Our ancestors discovered a source of energy beneath the earth. Energy? Something alive, Celeste continued. It could absorb matter, energy, memories, even biological traits. Elias looked at his hands. The ability, yes. Why me? Vivian answered. Because you were born with the original core. Elias turned toward her. What? Our father believed the core could only awaken in someone who had never been corrupted by power. Elias laughed. So I was poor on purpose. Vivian's expression became complicated. Our father hid you. From Black Crown? From everyone. Elias looked at the three sisters. And you agreed? Arya stepped forward. We were told you would be safe. Safe? His voice rose. I spent 5 years dying in a hospital. Arya cried. We didn't know. You didn't ask. The words echoed through the chamber. Nobody spoke. Elias turned away. The anger inside him was too large. Because the worst part was that they might actually be telling the truth. They had not intentionally tried to destroy him. They had simply been selfish, negligent, cowardly, and sometimes that was worse. Before anyone could say anything else, every light in the chamber turned red. A warning appeared on the wall. Incoming attack. Celeste looked at the screen. Impossible. Vivian turned. What? Celeste's face went pale. They found us. The mountain exploded. A massive force struck the estate. The walls shook. The ceiling cracked. And from the darkness outside came hundreds of armed soldiers. Black Crown had arrived. But this time, they had brought an army. Elias looked at his sisters. Vivian removed her coat. Underneath was a combat suit. Celeste pulled a device from her pocket. Arya smiled for the first time that night. Elias stared at them. You three can fight? Vivian looked at him. You never asked. The doors exploded. The battle began. Vivian moved first. She was not just a businesswoman. She was a trained combat specialist. Her suit generated blades of compressed energy. She moved through the soldiers with terrifying precision. Celeste activated a swarm of mechanical drones. Each drone analyzed an enemy and predicted their movements. Arya's power was the strangest. She could manipulate sound. A single scream from her could shatter concrete. A whisper could erase the sound of an entire room. For the first time, Elias saw the truth. His sisters had not become powerful by accident. They had been trained. They had been preparing for war their entire lives. And they had never told him. Elias entered the battlefield. A soldier fired. Elias absorbed the bullet's kinetic energy. Another attacked with an energy blade. Elias absorbed the blade. A third struck him with a powerful punch. Elias absorbed the force and returned it. Every enemy he touched became weaker, and Elias became stronger. But the ability had a cost. Every person he absorbed left behind a memory, a soldier's fear, another's childhood, a third's final thought. Elias began hearing voices. Too many voices. He dropped to one knee. The battlefield blurred. A soldier rushed toward him. Vivian intercepted the attack. Elias! He looked up. Her face was covered in blood. Control it! I can't! Then stop absorbing everything. The soldier attacked again. Elias raised his hand. The interface appeared. Ability available, convert. Instead of absorbing the enemy, Elias converted the energy around him. The ground erupted. Every soldier was thrown backward. Elias stood. The voices disappeared. He had finally understood. The devouring core wasn't just about taking power. It was about deciding what to do with it. And that decision made him more dangerous than anyone had expected. The battle continued for nearly an hour. Black Crown's forces were overwhelming, but the Vale family fought together. For the first time in years, Vivian protected Elias's left side. Celeste directed the drones. Arya disabled entire squads with sound, and Elias absorbed the attacks that slipped through. They were unstoppable, until the sky turned black. Lucian returned, but he was no longer alone. Behind him stood a woman wearing a white mask. Elias recognized her instantly. He had seen her before, in old family photographs. His mother. The woman who was supposed to be dead. Elias stopped breathing. Vivian froze. Celeste dropped her device. Arya whispered, "Mom!" The woman removed the mask and smiled. "Hello, children," Elias stared. His entire world collapsed. His mother was alive, and she'd been standing beside the man who murdered his father. Lucian bowed. "Your Majesty." The woman looked at Elias. "The original heir has awakened." Elias couldn't speak. His mother stepped forward. "I am sorry, Elias." He finally found his voice. "You're alive." "Yes." "You let me think you were dead." "Yes." "Why?" Her expression became sad. "Because your father was wrong." Elias's blood ran cold. "About what?" She looked at the glowing core inside his chest. "The power cannot be controlled." Then she raised her hand. The entire mountain began collapsing, and Elias realized the truth. His mother had not returned to save him. She had returned to take the power inside him. The next battle was unlike anything Elias had ever experienced. His mother did not fight like Lucian. She didn't need to. She controlled the environment itself. The ground beneath Elias became liquid. The air turned solid. The sky rained blades of energy. Every attack came from everywhere. Elias absorbed what he could. But his mother understood the devouring core. She knew exactly how it worked. Every time Elias absorbed an attack, she changed the energy structure. She forced him to absorb poison, heat, pressure, memory, pain. Elias screamed. His body began breaking down. Vivian tried to reach him. His mother stopped her with a single gesture. "You cannot save him," Vivian shouted. "You abandoned him once." The woman looked at her. "And you abandoned him every day afterward." Vivian froze. The words hit with brutal accuracy. Elias heard them, and something inside him changed. For years he had been angry because his sisters had abandoned him. But now he realized something. They were not monsters. They were people who had made unforgivable choices. And if he became consumed by hatred, he would become exactly like his mother. The woman reached for him. "Come with me, Elias." He struggled to stand. "You killed Dad. He betrayed the family. You abandoned me. I was protecting you. You destroyed my life." Her eyes hardened. "No," she pointed toward the three sisters. "They did." Elias looked at Vivian, Celeste, Arya. They were wounded, terrified, and for the first time, completely powerless. Elias closed his eyes. Then he made a decision. He would not forgive them. Not yet, maybe not ever. But he would not let anyone else decide what he became. The core inside his chest exploded. A wave of energy spread across the mountain. Elias absorbed the entire battlefield. The soldiers. The weapons. The collapsing stone. The energy. Even the storm. Everything vanished into him. The world became silent. Elias opened his eyes. The interface appeared. Devouring core 100%. Final function unlocked. Create. Elias raised his hand. The energy he had absorbed began transforming. He created a massive shield around the mountain. The collapsing estate stopped. The black storm disappeared. His mother stared. "You learned to create." Elias looked at her. "No," he raised his hand. "I learned to choose," then he attacked. The final battle between mother and son lasted only 6 minutes. But those 6 minutes changed the world. Elias no longer fought with rage. He fought with control. He absorbed his mother's attacks, converted them, and returned them. Every strike became stronger. Every movement became faster. His mother grew desperate. For the first time, she was losing. Lucian tried to interfere. Vivian stopped him. The two collided. Celeste used her drones to trap him. Arya silenced the entire mountain. No sound, no distraction, no escape. Elias and his mother stood alone. She looked at him. "You think you can defeat me?" Elias said nothing. She attacked. Elias reached out. His hand touched her chest. The interface appeared. Absorb core signature? Elias hesitated. If he accepted, he could take her power, her memories, perhaps even her life. His mother looked into his eyes. Do it! Elias frowned. She smiled. You want revenge. For a moment, he almost did. Then he saw the memories. His mother's fear. Her loneliness. The years she spent hiding. The moment she chose power over her family. Elias understood. She had not been born evil. She had simply made the same choice again and again, until there was nothing left. Elias released her. His mother stared. Why? Because I am not you. Then he absorbed only the core energy. Not her memories, not her life. Just the power. His mother collapsed. Lucian stared in horror. Elias turned toward him. Lucian ran. He made it 3 steps. Vivian's blade blocked his path. Celeste's drone surrounded him. Arya whispered. Sleep. A wave of sound struck Lucian. He fell. Elias walked toward him. The man who had killed his father. The man who had tried to murder him. The man who had hunted him for years. Lucian looked up. Kill me, Elias stared. Then he placed his hand on Lucian's chest. Lucian screamed. Elias absorbed his power, his combat experience, his memories. And finally, the truth. Lucian had not killed Elias's father alone. Someone else had ordered it. Someone inside the Vale family. The interface flashed. Memory acquired. Primary traitor identified. Elias froze. He turned toward his sisters. Vivian looked confused. Celeste stared at him. Arya whispered. What did you see? Elias looked at the mansion, at the old family symbol, at the 3 sisters. Then he said the words that made all of them freeze. Dad wasn't betrayed by Mom. Vivian stepped closer. Then who? Elias looked at the 4th statue beneath the estate. The statue had begun to crack. A hidden symbol appeared beneath it. A symbol none of them recognized, except Elias, because he had seen it in Lucian's memory. The traitor was not one of the 4 children. It was the person who had raised them, their grandfather, the founder of Vale Dominion. And according to Lucian's memories, he was still alive. The 3 sisters stood in silence. For the first time, the family had a new enemy, one who had controlled the Vale Empire from the shadows for decades, one who had manipulated their parents, one who had hidden Elias's true identity, and one who had just learned that the original heir was alive. Elias looked at Vivian. You knew about the family inheritance. Vivian nodded slowly. Yes. Then I want everything. Celeste frowned. Everything? All the files. Elias, all the secrets. His voice became cold. You want me to trust you? None of them answered. Then start by telling me the truth. Vivian looked down. For the first time in her life, the most powerful woman in Aurelia looked like a child. I don't know if I can. Elias walked past her. Then learn. He reached the top of the mountain. Below him, the city stretched across the horizon. Aurelia, the city his sisters ruled. The city that had forgotten him. The city that would soon learn his name. Behind him, Vivian approached. Elias, he didn't turn. What? Where are you going? I'm leaving. Arya's voice cracked. After everything that happened? Elias finally turned. Exactly because of everything that happened. Celeste stepped forward. You can't face the grandfather alone, Elias smiled. I'm not alone. The sisters looked confused. Elias pointed toward the mountain road. A convoy was approaching. At the front was a woman with short black hair and a scar across her face. She stepped out of the vehicle. Elias Vale? He nodded. She tossed him a black jacket. You're late. Elias caught it. Who are you? The woman smiled. Someone who has been waiting for you to wake up. Vivian immediately reached for her weapon. Identify yourself, the woman laughed. Still bossy, Vivian? Vivian froze. The woman looked at Elias. My name is Mara Quinn. Celeste's eyes widened. The former head of Black Crown, Mara nodded. I quit. Arya stared. You can't quit Black Crown. Mara looked toward the unconscious Lucian. Apparently you can. Elias looked at her. Why help me? Mara's smile disappeared. Because your grandfather killed my family, too. Elias said nothing. Mara stepped closer. And because if you plan to destroy the Veil Empire, she looked at the three sisters. You're going to need someone who knows where all the bodies are buried. The mountain fell silent. Elias looked at his sisters, then at Mara, then toward the city. For years he had wanted a family. Now he had something else. A mission, a power, and a truth that had been hidden from him since birth. He had spent his entire life believing he was the weakest member of the Veil family. The poor brother. The sick brother. The forgotten brother. But he had never been weak. He had simply been asleep. And now the entire world was about to discover what happened when the most powerful family on Earth accidentally created its greatest enemy. Elias walked down the mountain. Vivian followed. Then Celeste. Then Arya. He didn't ask them to come. They came anyway. But things were different now. They were no longer walking behind their little brother. They were following the only person who could save them from the monster who had built their empire. At the bottom of the mountain, Elias stopped. The interface appeared one final time. Main quest updated. Destroy the false king. Reward, full awakening. Then a second message appeared. New threat detected. The observer has awakened. Elias stared at the words. Mara noticed his expression. What is it? Elias looked toward the eastern sky. A red light had appeared above the horizon. Far away beyond the city, something enormous was moving beneath the ocean. Something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Something that had sensed the devouring core. Elias smiled. Looks like our family problem just got bigger. Vivian frowned. Bigger than our grandfather? Elias looked at the distant horizon. Much bigger. And somewhere beneath the ocean, a massive golden eye opened. The world trembled. The interface flashed. Final warning. The first ancient entity has awakened. Host must choose, consume the world, or protect it. Elias stared at the message. Then he closed his fist. Behind him stood the three sisters who had abandoned him. Beside him stood a former enemy who knew every secret in the world. Ahead of him waited the grandfather who had destroyed his family. And beneath the ocean, something ancient was coming. Elias Vale had died alone. He had awakened with nothing, no money, no family, no hope. But now, he had power. He had enemies. And he had finally stopped begging people to love him. The next time his billionaire sisters crawled to him, they would not be asking him to come home. They would be asking him to save the world. And Elias had not decided whether he wanted to. Because before he could become the hero of Aurelia, he had one final question to answer. Would he destroy the empire that had abandoned him? Or would he take it? The answer would begin with the arrival of the false king, and when that man finally stepped out of the shadows, Elias would discover that the greatest betrayal in his life had not even happened yet.